Okay, let's get started. There have been some changes over the last 12 to 18 hours. TD14 is now Tropical Storm Marco, and actually an aircraft just found some fairly strong winds in Marco, so now it's a strong tropical storm. There is still a large uncertainty in the track of both tropical storms Marco and Laura, and both may impact the region in the coming week. Here's a look at the latest satellite imagery. You can see Marco is much better defined, more convection, more thunderstorms around the center. It's a fairly small tropical storm. And then you see Tropical Storm Laura now getting close to Puerto Rico. There is some strengthening, as I say, that has occurred with Marco. It's now a strong tropical storm, but may well become a hurricane even later today. Tropical Storm Laura is an immediate threat to the Caribbean islands, Florida, and then the northern Gulf states, but it could also track our way. We'll talk about that in a moment. Here's a look at the latest forecast track for Tropical Storm Marco. You see it looks a little bit different than it did yesterday. The storm is located just a bit further east than the previous center fix, and you can see it's sort of drawn toward the north-northwest over the next few days, really through Monday morning, likely becoming a hurricane as it does so. Then notice that little bit of bend toward the west and back for our area. The H's indicate hurricane strength, forecast to be a Category 1 hurricane. And then as it bends to the left, will likely weaken a little bit as it encounters strong wind shear as it gets close to the Texas coast. So most likely making landfall somewhere along the Texas and Louisiana coast. You can see all those areas are pretty much within the cone. Taking a look at Tropical Storm Laura, again, near Puerto Rico now. You can see it's tracking right along the spine there of the Caribbean islands. And so that's going to limit its intensity over the next 2 or 3 days. But after it emerges out over the Gulf as we get into Monday night and Tuesday, strengthening is expected. You can see the left-hand side of the cone is now into the upper Texas coast. So we are in the cone of 2 tropical storms at the same time. You can see the timing there, Thursday, 8 a.m. So it's pretty much following on the heels of Marco by just a day or so, a day or two. And even with this track, we can expect impacts. I do want to say there are some models that actually track it even further left on the outside the cone, even down toward Matagorda Bay. So there is a lot of uncertainty when you get beyond 3 days on this forecast track, and we will need to monitor this carefully. It could impact us as a hurricane mid to late week. Taking a look at the wind speed probabilities, this gives an idea of where the greatest chances are of tropical storm force winds with Marco. You can see those values have come up quite a bit from what we briefed yesterday, with the highest values there along the Louisiana coast, but fairly high values extending on into our forecast area, in the 20 to 30% range. That would include Galveston and Houston. A little bit lower chances as you go farther down the coast, but the highest probabilities of tropical storm force winds for the Louisiana coast and areas offshore. And then you could do the same type of plot for 58 mile per hour sustained winds, strong tropical storm force. And you can see once again the Louisiana coast is highlighted here as having the greatest likelihood of those stronger winds. But that chance with Marco certainly does extend out to our area as well. to jump ahead here. At the most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds for Marco, and you can see similar to what we briefed yesterday, we're looking at those tropical storm force winds, should they occur in our area, to come in sometime around Tuesday morning, either late Monday night or during the day on Tuesday for the coastal areas. And those time marks, again, represent most likely time of arrival of tropical storm force winds. So you can kind of fix your H hour there. Now, I want to show a similar plot for Laura as far as, and you can see how quickly Laura is expected to move. When it gets out of over the Gulf, it's really moving very quickly. And so it can actually be fairly close to us as far as the winds arriving during the day as early as Wednesday. So it's really remarkable to see, of course, 2 tropical cyclones coming into our area on almost consecutive days. And of course, all of this is subject to change. You can see the wind probabilities. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there are actually some models that track it even a bit further to the left, giving us a more direct impact. So we really do need to watch this one carefully. Looking at potential surge from Tropical Storm Marco first. Best advice at this point is to use the Category 0 meow from the slosh surge model. And what that gives us, it shows the most vulnerable areas and the potential depth of water above ground should we get a direct impact from a large tropical storm. And so it gives you some idea of what to plan for from the Marco impact. You can see the colors there represent depth of water above ground, and so you can see parts of the bayside there of Bolivar having some water on them, perhaps 2 to 4 feet potentially. Again, this would imply a direct hit from a strong tropical storm. And you can look at the similar map, looking more at Brazoria and Matagorda counties, which areas we might see some storm surge flooding if Marco were to track in that direction, which is possible. As I hinted at earlier, there's still a big spread in where Marco goes before landfall. So it could even bend back as far south as Matagorda Bay. More likely, though, to be a bit farther north, in which case this would be overdone. Talking about seas now from both Marco and Laura, you can see the latest forecasts there for the Gulf of Mexico. And you'll start to see higher period swells perhaps showing up on the beaches late Sunday night and Monday, leading to an increase in surf and some higher water on the beaches. The higher seas, greater than 6 feet within 60 nautical miles, probably late Monday based on this information. 15 to 20 foot seas possible late Tuesday off the Texas coast, primarily from Marco, but perhaps even by then some swell starting to show up from Laura. And then increased surf, water levels, and rip current risk. Note the Tuesday evening plot here, that shows those higher seas up above 20 feet in some cases with Laura. And again, impacts from Laura are really going to depend on whether the storm kind of curves up into the northern Gulf Coast states or continues westerly more toward our area. So we've got to watch that carefully. We talked a little bit about this already. What about the coastal flood risk? It's a bit too early to say for sure, but for planning purposes, I would look at times of high tide starting late Monday afternoon and night, and then continuing through Tuesday from Marco, and then beyond that, with the second storm coming on its heels. We need to be concerned about tides increasing further if Laura were to head directly our way. So that's something we need to keep in mind. It could be a significant surge event if we do get that direct hit. If it were to recurve, then not so much of a direct impact from Laura, but we would still get the swells and the surf. Looking at rainfall, this is just meant to give you an idea, and I apologize, the bullets here haven't been modified, but the map shows 3 to 5 inches at the coast. That's just meant to give you an idea of sort of the average amount of rain. But as you all know, anytime we have tropical systems, you can get much higher amounts in and around the track itself, even if it's a weaker system. So, but first cut here, 3 to 5 inches at the coast, could be much higher though, depending on where the storm actually tracks. As far as rainfall timing, you can see kind of the maps there from Saturday, Sunday, Monday on to Tuesday and Wednesday. And you can see there that the rains from these systems reach our coastal waters perhaps late Monday. And then the rainiest periods for us, from Marco at least, would be Tuesday and Wednesday. But depending on the track of Laura, those rainy, stormy conditions, of course, could extend right through most of the week through Friday if we do get Laura on the heels of Marco. So just to sum up here, Tropical Storm Marco forecast to strengthen to a hurricane. It's almost there already. It has some significant strengthening this morning as it tracks northwest over the Gulf waters later this weekend. Well, this weekend. The storm will make landfall most likely as a tropical storm, though, probably weakening a bit before landfall along the Texas or Louisiana coast around Tuesday. If it were to go into Louisiana, it could even be Monday. Impacts from Marco mostly in that Monday night through Tuesday night time frame. And then we have to turn our attention to Tropical Storm Laura. It should remain a tropical storm as long as it's tracking over land. But as we get into Monday, we would probably see some strengthening as it tracks across the Gulf of Mexico. The track very uncertain beyond 3 days. It could be really anywhere along that Texas coast all the way up to portions of the northern Gulf Coast. And so impacts from Laura are really going to depend on whether it is more of a direct hit or if it follows more of a center or right of cone track, which would take it more up into Louisiana. So that's the latest on these two tropical systems. We will be doing another webinar at 4:30 p.m. based on the next 4 p.m. advisory. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording